Well, this is a game between Pokimane and Rubius in Pogchamps 3. These are two large creators that that promote chess to many people. The game begins with 1 d4, d5, bishop f4, the London system, knight c6, e3, bishop f5, and knight f3. Everything's pretty normal. Queen d7, not a normal move, but it's doable. And instead of going to d3, like the bishop going to d3 like it normally does, the bishop pins the knight in c6 as she goes bishop b5. a6, Rubius attempts to kick away the bishop. Instead of moving the bishop away, she creates a larger threat onto Rubius's queen. The queen moves to d6. A better move here would have been to e6, as it wouldn't have been extradited right by the bishop, and it still defends the knight if the bishop were to capture. But nevertheless, we have queen d6 and knight captures c6. The bishop attacks the queen, and the knight is threatening some discoveries when the knight moves, as it would be an attack on the king. Queen e6, he now corrects his mistake and brings his queen into danger. And bishop e2. She took a minute to think here and decided that she wanted to preserve her bishop over the knight. Interesting, a better move here would have been knight d8, as it forces the king to capture as he's in check. And if the king weren't to capture, if you just were to capture the bishop, the knight would capture the queen. And after the king captures the knight, he no longer is castling privileges, and then Pokimane could have moved back. But we have bishop e2 and queen captures c6. c3, normal London stuff, and long castles. Knight d2, e6, preparing to develop the bishop. Knight f3, rerouting the knight from b1 to f3, as the knight here is gone from previous interactions. And bishop d6, putting pressure onto the f4 bishop, threatening to capture and ruin their pawn structure. Knight e5, and this is a monster knight, so Rubius just captures it and captures. There's an attack on the pawn, so f6 was played by Rubius. Bishop f4, she drops back, and g5, expanding on the king's side as he queenside castled, and Pokimane will likely kingside castle. This also attacks the bishop on f4. Bishop g3, she drops her bishop back, and h5, preparing to go h4 and trap the bishop. Instead, Pokimane goes h4 herself, and bishop g6. The idea being, if he was to just play a random move like knight e7, she could capture, captures, and then capture there. But now this puts more protection onto the pawn. Bishop g6, b4, as Rubius expand on the king side, Pokimane needs to start attacking on the queen side. And queen captures c3, check. The best move is to just move your king to f1, as if the queen were to block, the rook is hanging. And this is what happened in the game. Queen captures a1, and the queen goes back. A simpler move would have just been to queen trade, as there is no more way to really attack and checkmate the black king, but instead Rubius just collects some pawns. Castles by Pokimane, and bishop c2 by Rubius, attacking the queen. Queen d2, pinning the bishop. Bishop can still go there, but can't really retreat back, as the queen would fall. And rook e8, just centralizing the rook. Rook c1 here by Pokimane, pinning the bishop, as if the bishop were to move, this is hanging. And the bishop does move, as otherwise it would have been captured. Rubius offers a queen trade. First, Pokimane goes rook captures c7 check, The best move, of course, is to go here, as if he were to go here, he has many discoveries, as whenever the rook moves, let's say there, to attack the queen, the bishop checks the king, and he does go king b8 with an idea to escape to a7, although he's too slow, as after rook c2 check, he loses the queen. Rook captures a2. He captures back, and queen captures a2. This is a weird position where we have knight for bishop, and two rooks for queen and bishop. Pokimane should be winning this game. e5, pawn break in the center by Rubius, and b5, ignoring the pawn break, instead just attacking Rubius's king. Rook e6, defending the pawn as it was attacked 3 times with only 2 defenders. Queen captures d5, attacking the rook and collecting a pawn. The rook goes back to, rook b6, just trying to keep eyes on the a6 pawn, but this walks into a pin. Queen c5, and rook h7, just trying to bring the rook into the game, as before these 2 pieces were just out of the game completely. The pawn captures a6, trying to expose kingside. Bishop captures a6, and d captures e5. Knight e7, trying to bring the knight into the game, as it was on the original square the entire time. And e captures f6, just continuing to eat up the pawns. The rook cannot capture, of course, because it's pinned. Knight g6, just trying to bring the knight to the game. And queen f5, now pinning the knight. Rook hb7, doubling up on the b file, preparing to possibly go there. Check. Captures the knight, and rook b1 check. Although there is no real follow-up after king h2, Rubius just goes rook c1, bringing the rook on the open c file. f7, Pokimane prepares to go f8 and make another queen, and rook b1, preparing to go there and mate the king. Of course, Pokimane doesn't allow this. She gives up the bishop, but at least this allows for an escape square for the king. Rook h1 check nevertheless, king g3, and rook b8, protecting against the f8. Queen f6, preparing f8, and rook captures h4, just taking the pawn. f8 to equals queen, g captures h4, finally capturing the hanging bishop, although this does drop the rook. Whatever, king f3, just trying to make sure to stay out of any checks, although there is still rook h3, although that does hang the rook. Instead, she just goes king e4. She could have captured the rook. It doesn't make much of a difference considering she has 2 queens. Rook captures e3, just begging to get captured. And instead, the king just captures on f4. Rook e8, attacking the queen. And if she would do a random move like bishop f3, she could lose both queens, as it would be a pin. Queen f7 check. Rook blocks, and queen captures c8. h4, just trying to get all the pieces off the board, so possible stalemates. Queen f e7, just offering simplification. h3, just going all in, hoping that maybe she won't see, and he could get his own queen. Queen captures b7, Pokimane is just simplifying. King captures, and g captures h3. a5, queen e7 check, king b6, and queen d7, preparing to go there, and the king would have to move, and collecting the last pawn. a4, Pokimane just captures, king captures a4, king c5, queen b3, King d4. Rubius is trying to bring the king to the center, as it's harder to get mated in the center. Queen captures e3. King d5. Queen captures e4. Pokimane is just not allowing the king to get in. She's trying to push him to the corner. King d6, and again, not allowing him to get in. Of course, a better move would have been just there to stop him from getting into the e file, but it doesn't make much of a difference. King c6, queen e5, just cutting the king out more. Queen d7, queen f6, king e8, queen d7, just final moves. And after here, of course, not going for that, as that'd be stalemate. Keep in mind, during this time, Rubius was keep on offering Pokimane draws, but of course she declined all of them. King e5, she's just trying to bring the king in and then mate him. King d5, king e8, king c5, king b8, and king b. And after this move, Pokimane went queen b7 and won the first game against Rubius.